Hello there everyone, this is Carrie with Any Day Blessings, and on this channel it is all things homeschool. I share our homeschool adventure here with you all through curriculum flip-throughs and updates, and I give you day in the life, do a lesson with us kind of videos. I share how we store our curriculum, how we schedule and plan it. So if any of that interests you, I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow along with us. I also try to share with you videos like this one, which is just kind of like encouragement, helpful tips, things like that. That maybe you can use to bring a little variety or to kind of spruce things up in your homeschool a little bit. We all know what it's like to kind of get in a rut, and just we all need a little new energy, new ideas, new things to try and keep the ship moving, right? So that's what this video is about. This is just 11 things that we have done, and we have done way more than these things, but these are just, just to get you started with some ideas, just to get your juices flowing. I did create a blog post a year or so ago about this. I will try and remember to link that below. If I forget, someone just holler at me in the comments, and I will go back and add that into the description box. But these are just some things that I have done to make our lessons a little more hands-on or kinetic, moving, not necessarily hands-on like I'm building something or I'm actually doing the thing I'm reading about, nothing like that per se. Sometimes that's what we do, but more so just allowing my kids to move and use energy. When the blood is flowing and the kids are moving, it really does help them think and process better. It helps them retain the information better. They've actually done studies where children bouncing on exercise balls and things like that and having fidget devices of all different kinds actually retain information better, which is pretty interesting. I don't know the science behind it, and I don't pretend to, but I have read those studies before. So I've tried to do it more so from a behavioral standpoint, because I notice when my kids start to get a grumbly attitude and they start to zone out and not pay attention to their lessons, there's usually some behavior issues that follow that. So I try to kind of stem the tide, just try and hold off that bad behavior and keep our day moving in a positive direction. And these are some of the things that we've tried, and I hope that you can take some tips from the things that I'm sharing here and put them into use in your home. So tip number one, let me start over here. I would get some flashcards. Of course, you all have flashcards, so I don't have to say get flashcards, but I would do your flashcards in a little bit different way. So you're used to doing something like this where you hold this up and, okay, here we are doing our flashcards, that sort of thing. And, your child just tries to get as many as he can in a certain amount of time or something like that. And that's fine. Maybe you even just have your child sit with the flashcards and do them, independently. That's fine too. But if you're looking to get a little movement into your day, a little variety, kind of spice things up, what we have done is we have just spread these cards all over the living room floor, into the dining room, into the family room area, and my son has to get the fact right in order to go to the next card. So we kind of play leapfrog, and my son will hop to one card, and if he gets it right, he gets to hop to the next card. And the goal is to get to the family room, to maybe have recess or to maybe watch a show or something. There's usually some award. Maybe a snack is in there. There's usually some award at the end of this lily pad path that he's hopping through. So that's one suggestion. Just have them, whether it be vocabulary flashcards, whether it be math fact flashcards, whatever it is that you're working on, have them positioned throughout your home and treat it like a little obstacle course. And they have to get the information on that card correct in order to hop to the next one. And if they don't, then they just start back over. And that's all right, because you're getting good review of those initial facts. You maybe could even switch some cards up a little bit if you want, but that's one thing we do. Another thing is we call it the bowl dash. And we have a bowl, just a regular old mixing bowl at the end of the room. Could be a Tupperware bin, anything you have, a box. And we just put it at the end of the room. And I am at the other end of the room with the flashcards. And he has to start at the end of the room with the bowl, run down to me, and answer the flashcard fact, give the correct answer. And if he gets it right, he gets to run back with the flashcard and dump it in the bowl. If he gets it wrong, he has to run back to that wall empty-handed. He doesn't like that. So just a little bit of running, physical movement. This is great for the winter when they can't get outside. A little bit of movement. I know not everybody has a big enough space for running, but you could alternate that with something like jumping jacks or push-ups or just some kind of physical movement, running in place, 5 times, 5 knee lifts or something like that. And if they get to go, if they get to have something to take back with them and drop it in the bowl, and they feel like, I don't know, at least I get this from my son. He feels like he wants to keep going. When he gets a card right, he wants to, oh, I got to hurry and get another one. Oh, I got to hurry and get another one. So we do that for usually about 3 minutes at a time, and then he takes a break, and he really likes it because it's getting him moving, but he's also practicing his math cards. Another way that we have done math facts, again, and this is all instead, we don't really do many of the math fact practice sheets, the timed drills. We've never done those in our house. Anything timed is just really poorly received here. And so I sneak in timing him, and I kind of see how many facts he's getting, and I kind of evaluate that way, but I don't really tell him I'm doing it. So a lot of these games that I'm coming up with are timed, but he doesn't know I'm timing them. So there's just another side little tip. Don't tell him. If they have that clock anxiety, just don't tell him you're timing them. But one other thing that we've done is we hide a bunch of these flashcards around our house, around the living room, and he has to find the card. And again, in order to retrieve it from its hiding place, he has to give the right answer to whatever's on the card. So just some ideas for getting some movement in. Again, not necessarily what some of you call hands-on learning, but just introducing movement for those kinesthetic people in your house that I have one of. Okay, the next thing that we do, and this is something that I've heard a lot of homeschool moms do, but I didn't know if you knew about these little flipboards that Dollar Tree has. We use these and play things like whiteboard slap or whiteboard flip, where I will be maybe answering some question or asking some questions about a lesson or something like that, doing a review, and my son will have his marker board and he'll be writing, and I'll say, okay, 3, 2, 1, flip, and and he'll flip his answer, and if it's the right answer, I don't know, sometimes I give him, like something like every 3 answers is a chocolate chip, or every, if I'm feeling really generous, every correct answer is a chocolate chip. He can get a lot of chocolate chips that way if he really has mastered the content. But sometimes what we'll do is we'll do 3, 2, 1 slap. Like if I'm doing something like vocab cards, and I'll hold up, the word. What's one of his vocab words? I'm totally blanking on all of his vocab words. Lurch. Lurch was one of his vocab words. So I'll hold up the meaning, to move quickly to one side. And so I'll just hold that up, and he's got to write down the vocab word, and I'll say 3, 2, 1, smash, or, and he'll take this because it's kind of like a fly swatter, and he'll smash it down on the table, and I'll smash the vocab card down on the table, and if it's a match, then he knows he got it correct. So just another way to use these to kind of bring some movement, again, some variety. Number 3, I better motor 3 here because I got 11 of these. Number 3, involve your little siblings to be messengers. So you can do this, again, with any kind of information that you're quizzing the child on, or any kind of maybe review lesson content. You can use a little sibling, which there's another bonus, involving them in the lesson so they're not disrupting it. If you make them part of the lesson, then they're not causing disruptions to the lesson. Almost like telephone, where you send a message through to the little sibling and see if the correct answer comes back on the other side. So I've had my son do that before, where I'll say, tell Abby the answer and have her run over to mommy and give me the correct answer. Make sure you tell her clearly, and we've done that. I've also given my son flashcard or just blank note cards like this, and told him to send the answer through a messenger pigeon, which is his little sister, and bring the answer over to me. And that's another way that he will do his review activity for the day instead of on pen and paper. I mentioned this before with the flashcards about hiding them around the room. You can do the same thing with vocabulary cards. You can go outside and you can use your driveway for a chalkboard. That gets a lot more big motor skills in than just the fine motor of, using the pencil, they use their whole arm to write on the driveway. So again, just trying to get movement in here. Maybe hands-on is not quite the way to describe these tips, but it's what I know a lot of people call it. So I've used our driveway as a chalkboard for math facts, again, for parts of speech, for underlining things, for matching things, for all sorts, like I'll put a bunch of items on the driveway and I'll be like, okay, let's classify these, let's sort these, and let's make columns, and we make columns on our driveway. And so just use your driveway as a chalkboard, and then outside things as props for the lesson. You could write your answers, not answers. You could write your, so sorting answers. So if you're doing something where you're sorting between, for example, deciduous trees and coniferous trees, and you have a bunch of characteristics, we're going to be doing this upcoming in God's Design for Life. I'll try to remember to take pictures of you, because this is the way we're going to do that activity. We're not going to write columns on a piece of paper and put the things, the characteristics under the appropriate column. We're going to write the characteristics on note cards, and we're going to go outside where we do have a coniferous tree and a deciduous tree, and I'm going to put a bucket next to those trees, and they're going to drop the correct characteristic in the bucket. And if it's both, I'm going to have a bucket between the trees, and that's the both bucket. So again, just taking the stuff that you already have, the curriculum that you already have, and just turning it into a more hands-on movement, kinetic approach. It's really not that challenging. You just kind of need to have someone help you get your gears started a little bit, and I'm sure you'll take off from there. Another way you could do that is you could read out, if you don't want to take the time to write out the characteristics on the cards. What you could do is you could just say, if this is a characteristic of a coniferous tree, run over to the pine tree. If this is a characteristic of a deciduous tree, just run over there. So you don't have to give them the cards. They could just run and stand by the correct category and give their answer that way, and you could have a spot in the middle as the both, where they would run to. So lots of ways that you could do that. You could have action figures teach the lesson. This goes over swimmingly, especially for something that my son does not like hearing about. If Iron Man is teaching the lesson, it's cool. So have your action figures, and if you feel compelled to use the voices of those figures, it goes over way better. And then, kind of a piggyback tip off of that one is have your children use action figures, props, even each other, to teach and act out the lesson. Have them review yesterday's lesson with their action figures, with Legos, with their brother and sister. Have them act out things. For example, you could have them act out the parts of a flower. And you could say, okay, you pretend this is a big pile of dirt. I want you to hop in that big pile of dirt and stand like this, and then I want you to explain to me the parts of the flower and what each part does in the flower. Well, the roots are in the dirt, Mommy, and they're sucking up the nutrients and the water, and it's traveling up my body, which is the stem, all the way out to my hands, which are the leaves, and my face. Give me a big smile. Give me a big smile, because that's a pretty flower or pretty apple or whatever. That's your face. That's the fruit or the flower. So you could have them act out the lesson in an attempt to review or even to teach. You could use a younger sibling as a prop for that, to teach, and say, okay, her feet are like the roots, and go from there. So that's just, one example for using either their toys or themselves to act out the lesson. I have used playing charades before for things like teaching parts of speech and teaching other language arts concepts that usually are pretty just dry around here. My son does not enjoy language arts, so charades is another good way to get them moving and bring up new concepts. One thing my daughter loves to do in phonics is she loves to play action games with her phonics. Instead of just saying, raise your hand or tell me when you hear the ah sound, instead, introduce that exercise by saying, what is really teeny tiny and always comes around when there's food outside in the dirt? What's really teeny tiny? What bug? An ant. Okay, when you hear me say ah, like ant, I want you to pretend you're a teeny, teeny, tiny ant and scrunch down really, really small. If I don't say a sound that sounds like a in ant, or in ant, then you just stand up big, straight, and tall. Or maybe you're working on letter M. What animal makes this sound? What animal makes that sound? A monkey. And what sound does monkey begin with? So every time you hear me say a word that starts with like monkey, I want you to act like you're a monkey. And so we have done that. We did it with my son for a few years, and we've done that really from the beginning with my daughter in preschool time when we started letter sounds with her. My kids love that. Something else they love to do is to smash the letter. So I have like a swatter. This isn't it, but I have like a swatter, and I'll lay out several consonants and vowels and things on the table, and I'll be like, I'll say a word, and then I'll say, okay, I want you to smack the letter that begins or that starts this word. So, apple, and they would smack the A, that sort of thing. They love that, and it's a much more fun and active way to review their consonant sounds and vowel sounds too. You could do it with vowel sounds, but it's a much more fun way to review those sounds than just back and forth. Tell me when you hear this. Tell me when you hear that. And the last two things I'll mention, just kind of generally, that win the day in our house, just hands down every time: scavenger hunts and challenges. If you make it a challenge, my kids are into it. The most recent example I have of this was the God Created Plants coloring book from Master Books that we used recently. My son isn't really into coloring anymore. He's kind of moving past that a bit. But I said, we're going to have a coloring challenge. This book comes with stickers, and the stickers have all the colors that make up this picture, and you need to try and color this picture to match the picture. Okay, redo. You need to color the picture in order to match the sticker as best as you can. We're going to do a challenge and see who can do it best. And so he just took off, and he loved that. He thought it was amazing. And really what that did, you may say, well, what does that accomplish, Carrie? Like, what, getting him to color a picture? What is that? Well, number one, it shows him that he can have joy in tasks he doesn't normally like to do. Number two, it can help him create something beautiful that will be used as a review tool, because if you've ever used those coloring books, at the bottom, there is lesson content at the bottom of those. So it will serve as a beautiful reminder of the time that we spent learning about plants, and we can use it as a springboard for discussion when we're reviewing and talking about what we've learned. And number three, it just allows him to be part of something with his sister. It's something they're both working on that's the same, and that creates really just camaraderie and that learning together that I'm really trying to foster. So that could be a coloring page, it could be a writing activity, it could be a math activity, it could be anything. But that's just an example of why I like the use of challenges. And scavenger hunts. Let me just give you 4 brief examples from across all different subject areas. Bring me things that are normally found in pairs when we're learning about that in math. Bring me something that's living and non-living. And he brought me his sister, which was hilarious. And I forget the other thing he brought me, but that was hilarious. He brought me his sister. He was carrying her. It was really funny. Bring me something that starts with a. Okay, I've already mentioned that one. When my daughter's practicing phonics, I'll just close my eyes and say, put it in my hand, something that begins with a. Bring me an example of a wedge from science class when we're learning about simple machines. Bring me an example of a wedge. What could be used as that simple machine. So those are just some things that I've done. Like I said, we've done way more than that to kind of bring in the action and excitement into our homeschool. I hope that some of these things will inspire you to, if your child is just getting way down in pen and paper work and they're just, glassy-eyed, they're not having it, or you notice that they're not really retaining the information. Try some of these kinetic things to get your kids moving while you're reviewing material and see if that doesn't help, because it's just done wonders for my son. It's a way to quickly kind of stop the day from going south and having bad attitudes, and it just makes the day more pleasant. And what's wrong with that, right? Nothing at all. So I hope these were a help to you. Please leave me your comments below if you have some good hands-on, simple things, not with having to buy more pieces, parts, not with having to buy hands-on learning kits and things like that, just with using the things that you have in your home, just with taking the curriculum you already have and turning it into a more kinetic approach. I'd love to hear your ideas for that down below. And of course, I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.